and welcome! Today we are taking a full look at the Nerf N-Series Gear Up pack. This pack includes 3 different blasters and some attachments. Let's jump right in. Now, the names of these 3 blasters are not printed on the box or the blasters themselves, but looking at outside information, we have the wielder, an N-Strike stock attachment, a single thread-on bolt for the wielder, we get the dealer, an N-Strike scope, we get the flex, which is essentially the N-Series Jolt equivalent. We get 18 N-Series darts, and we get the instructions. And it looks like that outside information was correct because the instructions do specify the names of the blasters. Now let's go over the blasters, starting with the flex. The flex is a very simple blaster. We have a single tactical rail on the top. Of course, the barrel is right here. It's very easy to front load this blaster, and the dart fits in very snugly. The plastic quality seems on par with the other N-Series blasters. It is pretty solid. Certainly not the most premium plastic ever, but it's not going to break when you drop it. Just like a Jolt, this blaster is very simple. Assuming you have a dart loaded, simply pull down the priming handle and pull the trigger. The flex seems very snappy. I'm starting to really like this thing. Now let's go over the dealer. The dealer features a single tactical rail on top. On it I have the included scope. It operates pretty much exactly the same as the flex, but because of all the extra plastic, the blaster is designed to be loaded through the left side. Besides that, it operates just like the flex, so assuming you have a dart loaded, just pull the priming handle down and pull the trigger. But the most interesting thing to me is the fact that it features an N-Strike stock attachment point. I can't think of any blaster smaller than the dealer that features a stock attachment point. So we could totally take any N-Strike compatible stock, in this case the stock from the 1.2, and stick it right on the dealer. Maybe not the most comfortable with the way the grip is set up, but still absolutely hilarious, and I love this feature. I think it's worth noting that while this is compatible with all the old stocks, you might notice the 2 notches on the top as well. And that is because the new stock is locking from the top. This is actually a pretty great idea, because that means when you stick the stock on, when pressure is put on the stock, it is not going to flex as much as the old design because it is being secured up here instead of down here. I'm assuming this style is going to become the new standard for Hasbro, but what that does mean is this stock is not likely to be compatible with old blasters. I had to test it, and actually it totally works. You just have to have the stock upside down. It locks on just fine to the 1.2, and that is hilarious. The final blaster in the set is the wielder. I was definitely pretty excited for the wielder, but a couple things really do confuse and disappoint me. But let's get into it. The wielder features a stock attachment point, a single tactical rail, a very, very comfortable grip. This is probably my favorite N-Series grip yet. Not too big for a small hand, but totally accommodating to a big hand. Absolutely phenomenal. It does only include 1 bolt, but it's thread on, and you can put it on either side very easily. This blaster does not have slam fire, and the cylinder rotates on the prime back. It also features an auto return, and every time you pull the bolt back, the cylinder will rotate. The agility does not do this. So clearly this blaster is more different mechanically than I initially thought. The only thing that really kind of disappointed me about this blaster is the fact that it only has a 4-dart cylinder. They could have very, very easily made this a 6-dart cylinder, just like the agility, but instead this reasonably big blaster only holds 4 darts. Here is the agility for reference. And as you can see, the cylinder is no smaller in diameter. In fact, they are so similar in size that I wouldn't be surprised if you could just swap the cylinders between these blasters. It really makes me wonder why the wielder didn't have a larger capacity. So yeah, that was the most annoying thing about the wielder to me. To operate the blaster, assuming you have darts loaded, simply pull the bolt back, release it, and pull the trigger. Now let's take these blasters outside, starting with the flex. Alright, here we are outside with the flex. We will put a few over the chronograph, and they are brand new N-Series darts. 77. That's not exceptional for an N-Series blaster. Duplicate 77. and 74. So far, this is the weakest N-Series blaster that I've seen. I'm not actually surprised by that, seeing as the jolt hit lower than a standard Elite blaster. Unfortunately, we are having a lot of wind, but let's fire some shots downrange. Alright, now let's chronograph the dealer. 76, 78, 71, and 80. So, to be expected, just like the Flex, the dealer is a tad bit underpowered when compared to the other N-Series blasters. Again, there is some pretty serious wind, but let's put some shots downrange. Now let's try the wielder. Of course, loaded up, I have brand new N1 darts. 80, 77, 76, and 77. So that performance was definitely lower than I expected. Very interesting, and I would say a bit disappointing. Now let's fire some shots downrange. Now let's go back inside, and I'm gonna wrap up my final thoughts. So what are my final thoughts on the Nerf Gear Up pack? Starting with the Flex. Now, currently the Flex is the only blaster in the pack that you can buy outside of this pack. This should be available in a single pack for around $3. You can also buy it in a big multi-pack. And as the N-Series Jolt, the Flex does a really good job. It is underpowered compared to the other N-Series blasters, but I don't think that's a deal breaker, seeing as this is a pocket-style blaster. The handle is pretty comfortable, the priming is smooth, and the firing is pretty crisp. I really like the Flex. I have nothing negative to say about this blaster, but keep in mind, you can buy the Flex outside of this pack. Next, we have the Dealer. The Dealer is a pretty interesting blaster. By no means does this blaster have any real practical application, because it is essentially a Flex with extra plastic. But when it comes to goofy fun, the Dealer is actually a really cool blaster. The handle is a little bit more comfortable than the one on the Flex. I love that you get a matching scope, and the stock attachment point is wonderfully goofy. By the way, because of the new design, you can stick old stocks on upside down, and that works just fine, which is also hilarious. So while the Dealer is a pretty dumb blaster, ironically, I actually really like this thing. Finally, we have the Wielder. This one is pretty weird. There are some elements that I really like about it, and others that really disappoint me. Starting with what I like. The grip design is fantastic. I cannot stress how much this grip is amazing. The trigger is also well designed. It's very comfortable to pull. I like the fact that you get a stock attachment point. I like the thread-on bolt, and I love how smooth the prime is. I also like the fact that you can rotate through the cylinder. Overall, I really like the operation. What I don't like is the fact that for whatever reason, this thing is underpowered. That's kind of annoying to me. But the most annoying thing by far is the 4-round capacity. It could have very easily been a 6-round blaster. I have no idea why they chose to give it only 4 rounds. So as far as practical applications, even in the casual space, this blaster is very poor. But despite this being a pretty bad blaster on paper, I still really like using it, mainly because of the smooth operation and very comfortable grip. But whether it's really worth it is fully up to you. If you like the goofiness of this set and don't care about the negative aspects, then it might actually be a pretty good buy. If you are interested in the set, I will have the link in my description. Thank you very much for watching. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the N-Series Gear Up pack. Subscribe for more, have a good one, and happy blasting.